right, now please join me in welcoming our moderator, Catherine St. John, Senior Director of User Experience for Trading Central, who will be leading the discussion on evolving brokerages for the commission-free consumer. Let's give it up for Catherine.
Shall we test the mic? Everyone can hear me? So I work at Trading Central. Many of you might recognize the brand Recognia. We work with a lot of online brokers, best known for technical analysis, and now branching more into news analytics, into fundamental analytics, and so on. But let's take you to the real stars of the show today. The big story of the day is framed around zero commissions, free trading, but we have a great group of leaders who are deeply embedded in evolving the brokerage experience, and they're here to tell you the real story. So first of all, let's bring up Neil Ray. So Neil Ray is, let's test your mic. What's your position now with TD Ameritrade?
Thanks for that. I am a Managing Director of Corporate Development, and I focus on TD's FinTech investment program.
Amazing. And you have a couple of decades of experience, I think, across wealth, once at Merrill Edge and in private banking in many different areas, so I can see why they have you in to run that program. Next up, we have Nicholas Lamena. Come on stage. And you're at TradeStation now. Let's do the mic test.
Yeah.
What are you doing there?
So I'm responsible for product management and strategy at TradeStation.
Amazing. With a long history in many different areas, I think, of product and tech at that firm, so
Yep.
Lots of corporate knowledge there. And then we have Anthony. Come on stage, Anthony Denier. Some people may know you already, but do you want to?
Sure. My name is Anthony Denier. I'm the CEO of Webull Financial. Sitting next to these fine gentlemen, we're a little younger in our experience in terms of being a brokerage shop, but we've made quite a wave in the last couple of years, and I'm excited about talking about it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So you've been doing zero commission for a couple of years, perhaps, perhaps before it was so forced upon everyone. So let's start with you. I read something of yours recently, and you're recently quoted as saying there's a big difference between offering a free trade and offering a profitable trade. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means from a brokerage perspective?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so we've been doing a zero commission, zero fee, zero minimum for 2 years now. So we were well ahead of the curve, and from our launch, we've been saying that the race to zero is over. Now, obviously, things have changed, but when we first started, it was almost the simplicity of the zero commission apps that were available that we saw a problem with. So when we launched, we decided that we were going to launch a product that was not only zero, free, and lowered barriers for people to get involved into investing at an early age and an early stage of their experience, but give them all the proper tools that they would need to make a profitable trade, right? And there's just so many different ways to describe that, but one of the best ways, I think, to illustrate it to people that I speak to is to order a taxi now, right? You swipe right on an Uber app. To order your lunch, you'll swipe right on name which, DoorDash or Seamless app. To find a date, you can swipe right on Tinder. I don't think it should be that simple to buy a stock. Right? It shouldn't be swipe right and you just, congratulations, you bought a share of Apple, go have some ice cream. I think there's a whole lot more involved in investing, whether it comes to tools you're looking at on a charting suite or whether it comes to looking at the analytics of charting patterns and different techniques to make a better investment decision. So that was our focus.
Okay, anybody else want to? Actually, I find it interesting because we do see a lot of new challenger firms coming in that the focus on simplicity, and sometimes I wonder the same thing if simple is perhaps has a little bit of an end point to it. Mm-hmm. I've seen people switch over recently their accounts once free trading is offered at all of your companies now from the almost too simple brokers because now they're ready. Like, sure, maybe they're young and new to investing, but they've learned a little bit and they're ready for more. So I'm just thinking about TradeStation and how you guys have really built your business on data analytics, on very feature-rich platforms. Can you tell me a little bit about how you're navigating this, like simpler for new investors, but also the sort of richness that's warranted in the space that we're in investing?
Sure. So I think Tony makes a great point. I think you don't have to be a novice or an inexperienced investor to benefit from low commissions or zero commissions. And at TradeStation, we've also joined the zero commission party. And we have tools that over the years, while yes, originally we really focused on sophisticated and experienced active traders, over the years we've changed those tools, changed the customer experience, put a lot of work into really trying to come up with ways to present very functional, very sophisticated, very customizable trading strategies and analysis, and presenting it in a way that's not intimidating, that's easy to learn, because no one wants to try to learn trading and have to kind of toil away at watching videos and reading books for years on end before you can find any type of success. So that's what we've really been focused on, is really having functional, powerful tools, but presenting them in a way that's much more user-friendly maybe than they have been in the past.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Actually, I wanted to continue on that with a little bit about some of the unbundling and changes to how we're packaging our services and charging customers for services. I've seen new account types come into play, new subscription services, and so there's some things launched recently, different account types at TradeStation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. So we recently announced our TradeStation Go. It's a zero commission pricing, and it's really focused for customers that want to trade in our web and mobile products. It gives them commission-free trading for equities and options and discounted commissions on futures trades. And while you're not prohibited from using our downloadable Windows product with all the features in it, there will be a commission in that plan for those customers. Now, alternatively, we've also announced that we have TradeStation Select, which gives you commission-free trading across all of those platforms as well. And that's really what we got out of this, is that, as we said earlier, zero commission is not going to benefit just the most novice and experienced. We're going to have a tool for you. We're going to have a platform for you that will grow with you through that journey as you become more experienced and sophisticated. And we didn't want to limit our offering to only benefit the most novice people that only wanted the most basic type of order entry platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I think while a lot of people are focused on serving new investors, that we acknowledge there is some diversity and there is some maturing along that process. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your fintech investment program. We were looking at TradeStation launching crypto today, people starting to broaden into different areas, different sources of revenue. Can you tell us a little more about that program?
Sure. So we launched our fintech investing program at TD Ameritrade about 15 months ago. And the premise behind the program is really to launch a strategic investment program where the investments we make are aligned with our business interests. So we look to fill either product gaps, invest in technologies that will help us deliver our key products to our clients. And really the important thing is it's not fully financially focused. We have line of business sponsors. We work very closely with our businesses. And even before the move to zero commissions, the whole premise is looking for new revenue growth areas. Areas that we've looked at particularly have been access to the private markets, for example. One thing we've seen over time is that the public markets are shrinking, and a lot of our customers say, can we access the private markets through a TD Ameritrade platform? We've looked at ways to do that in partnership with our business. And really the premise behind taking equity investments in a lot of our commercial partners is to help us with having a seat at the table, looking at customization, looking at ways to develop the roadmap, and also having a little bit of skin in the game in terms of participating in the value creation that we provide to early disruptors.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of that program in terms of having a sort of ongoing engagement with fintech companies, many of which are in the audience today, and sounds like some of them would be adopted, perhaps spark new sources of revenue.
Absolutely.
But also keep you connected to new technologies that are being developed. I'm curious to hear a little bit about how technology providers are assisting with, how Webull delivers a great investing experience for people. How are you working with partners?
Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest, we do everything in-house. We are a tech company first, a brokerage second. So when we built our platform, we have over 150 developers that just build out our product, and we're so nimble and basically, we're so fast and young that we're able to change our product according to what customers basically guide us to, right? So in terms of third-party vendors, we use few other than market data, but we have been speaking to a lot because now a lot of the momentum is geared towards education, right? And getting what Nick mentioned, getting that novice user from their first trade to understanding how to look at all the tools available in the suite.
Okay, so let's talk about account types then. So a lot of new account types coming out, and many of them geared towards new investors or people interested in free trading, but still trying to recoup some fees in other types of packaging. But I don't know, you had some views on different account types, Anthony, and can a couple of account types from one firm really serve everybody, or what do you see as the future?
Yeah, from a Webull perspective, we're mobile first. We're a young platform. The average age of our users is 27 years old, and I'm proud to say our average account size is less than $3,000. So what that allows is for us to maximize the use of technology to keep our costs extremely, extremely low because our margins are razor thin at this point. And when we saw at the beginning of October, a lot of the big firms go to zero commission, the one thing that came up is, are they going to be ready for that $50 account, right? And they're going to get a lot of them, right? Because now that barrier of entry is lowered so far that here's the $50 account that really doesn't understand the difference between a limit order sometimes and a market order. So your customer service lines that you so graciously opened up to them are going to be inundated with 10 phone calls a day that they're not used to getting. You're going to be inundated with one share orders 250 times a day instead of your typical trade, which I don't want to step out of line, but I'm assuming it's more than one share. Those are all things that that the big shops are going to have to understand when they go towards this new customer base that newer fintech companies like Webull have been doing from the beginning.
Yeah, no, I still hear from a lot of our Canadian online brokerage clients that we deal with that some of them just aren't interested in that account type yet, and so they're not really targeting it. So it's interesting to see what will happen and how that changes in other parts of the world. I was just in London at a Forex trading event, and it was interesting to see them really hyper-focused on cost to serve, on how many people call in and have the same questions, and how do we reduce costs to operate in this new landscape. And I know TD Ameritrade has a lot of amazing new technology. In fact, you guys were mentioned at that event. I think it was in reference to messaging technology. Can you talk about how some of these new platforms, new technologies are helping with that cost to serve problem?
Sure. I think one thing that we're seeing is for every investment that we do, there's either a commercial partnership at the forefront of it or behind it. So, or I should say after it. So, striking up all these commercial partnerships with fintechs have not only been beneficial to our revenue growth strategy, but also cost reduction. We've looked at text messaging for advisors and how to facilitate that in a secure, compliant way. Other things that we've looked at in the cost side is enterprise workflow automation and using artificial intelligence to digitize customer content, to do some predictive analytics based on client correspondences in terms of which clients are most ripe for attrition or which clients are most ripe for certain products. So this is all part of the ecosystem in terms of cost reduction and revenue growth, and that these technologies not only help us achieve those bottom line goals, but also really help with the customer experience as well.
Yeah, it seems like there's still a ton of work to do, looking at some companies that are providing transcription of those customer calls and feeding them in, and seem to be focused more on compliance and less on customer experience with that data, but we'll see how things change. I don't know, what do you guys think are some of the gaps in some of the vendors or partners that you're looking out there, some technologies that you're wishing that you had access to help facilitate some of your pursuits?
So I think John mentioned it earlier. I think when we embarked upon our project to bring a crypto spot trading product live, we recognized very quickly that there weren't some vendors out there that exist for equities or even the futures trading space that you kind of take for granted, where we would focus on customer-facing stuff and then some of the back office tools that you would get a provider to be your vendor, it just doesn't exist. The space is too new. So we wound up having to really take some smaller pieces, and we met with, probably dozens, and that's not an exaggeration, dozens and dozens of small startup companies that had very specific and purpose-built solutions for pieces to the process. So we did wind up incorporating a few of those third-party products in our solution, but I think it's just a matter of, as that space matures more and more, there'll be more products out there that help us focus on what we're good at, which is servicing the customer, giving them tools, and let those vendors really focus on what they have deep kind of expertise at, which is processing trades, clearing trades, helping you to balance and reconcile and things of that nature. So the non-sexy stuff.
It's interesting to see the different strategies to stay connected or invest in things that you need to keep moving forward. I wanted to ask a little bit about brand, consumer brand, because I think that's an important area as the market expands, we get more people involved. And again, thinking back to that event recently abroad, where everyone was really hyper-focused on targeting and how we target very specific investor types. Can you tell me about how your firms are handling that with this new mass market environment where trading isn't really quite the niche it was when maybe we started up in 2000 or something like that?
Yeah. You want to hit it?
Yeah,
Good, popular
sure.
topic.
I think we've kind of recognized at TradeStation that education has always been important, but it's an even more fundamental and important part of the customer acquisition process and ongoing relationship with the customer than it's ever been. So having that education side by side and integrated into your products and services, automation, self-service tools. Not everyone wants to pick up the phone and wait on hold and talk to a customer. They want to be able to do things when they want to do them. They want to have it be intuitive. Even if it does seem like something they'd want to have a customer service rep do for them. Right. I think in today's world, customers prefer to be able to log in and switch some setting or switch like the way their account behaves or what have you. So that's what we see.
Yeah, no, I mean, education is such an old topic, but there's like, what's the new education, right? We often talk about more of a continuous flow of some of the buzzwords around snackable education and really targeting that at different people to keep them engaged and moving forward. So right. Anthony, maybe you have another take on that?
I mean, we all have, I think, a little bit different customer base, and what we've found is that it's a very social experience when it comes to trading or being involved on a platform like Webull. And I can even speak to some of our other competitors that are very similar to us. Look at the best way to illustrate. Look at the importance of a Yelp review versus a Zagat's now, right? I mean, Yelp actually comes up here when it comes to someone that's in their 20s, right? No, you ask them what a Zagat review is, and no one even knows what that is. I'm of a different generation, but this is the new. This is the new user, right? This is the new investor. This is the investor you want to get now at a young age, because once they come on your platform and they trust you and you form a relationship, brokerage accounts tend to be very sticky. So we like to really push that social aspect and get users interacting with other users, right? Now, there's a whole compliance aspect to that, being a broker-dealer, so we always need to tread lightly. But I think the future, or at least in our opinion at Webull, the future is running towards a more community concerned trading environment.
Yep. And I know there's a big community at pretty much all your firms. I saw a really huge event at TD Ameritrade, some photos of that event, which was amazing. But it's interesting, right, is engaging with your customers and trying to get into this space of helping them move forward and educating and doing this in a way that works well in our heavily regulated environment. I wonder if the problem gets a little bit more complex when you get into multi-asset. I mean, you talk about getting into sports betting, I think was one of the more recent publications by TD.
Yeah, and it's certainly something we're
Exploring. Not there, but exploring.
But you know, I agree with Nick 100%, and just to build upon, and I think you made a comment earlier about expanding the pie, and I think that's spot on. I think a lot of the things that we're looking at in terms of new capabilities, new products, the investments that we're making in disruptors is all around bringing more people into our ecosystem. So whether that be through sports betting or through crypto that you guys launched earlier today, or through access to private markets, access to derivative products, it's all about getting more, expanding the pie and then crossing over products once they get in-house. I think you know, some of these are more exploratory than others and early stages, but ultimately that's our hope that we can execute on.
Okay, so with so many different types of traders and different assets and different levels of competency and interests, you know, has anybody seen any success in terms of leveraging social channels or community or those other communication channels with your clients to provide more direct assistance?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I mean, because social is so important and the community is so important for our platform, what we find, which we actually discussed a little earlier, was a lot of times we'll market, do a lot of marketing on social media, but you get a lot of customer questions responding to that social media, right? And that's also another thing that we need to evolve to control. You put a post on Facebook that we're running a new trading competition, and next thing you know, you turn around and you have 25 customer inquiries about their account going to our social media page, right? So how do we address those? Well, obviously we can't do it publicly or to individually, but now we need to create a compliant way to answer those questions, right, in a way that conforms to our procedures for answering customer questions. So it needs a registered rep to look it over, especially if it accounts to to a customer account situation. So it's always evolving, right? And that's going to be, I think, a big way to communicate with customers going forward, because it's just begun to be tapped.
So speaking of communicating with customers, I'm curious about what the response has been from some of your customers. I know I've been following a lot of young investors on Instagram, for example, just trying to get the atmosphere. And I've seen people who are new, maybe trading for a year or two. Some of these people that some product groups might be, oversimplifying for, and then as soon as zero commissions hit, they're over to, to TDA, to your firms that really are focused on data analytics and the importance of offering them rich control and rich information. So yes, we've got 3 minutes left. We've got a lot of fintech companies in the room, and I'm curious if you guys have any advice on how they should engage with your companies on kind of inspiring how they can assist with how you see the future being. So maybe talk about how people get involved with the program at TDA.
Sure. I think having the program up and running now for a little bit over 15 months, we've now become fairly embedded in the ecosystem and working a lot with founders, fintechs, venture capital firms, all connected not only through corporate development, but also the lines of business. I think one of the more exciting things of my job, quite frankly, is for every deal that we do and for every partnership that we execute, there's probably 10 other deals that we don't do for strategic reasons that we think, wow, gosh, this is a really great idea. And we, now that we have the connectivity to the ecosystem, it's not uncommon for us to be able to make the touch points and work with fintechs, not only inside TD Ameritrade, but also connect them to either venture firms or strategic partners outside as well. So it's been very successful from the sense of getting us in the ecosystem, getting us in touch with disruptors in our industry, working with the firms to have commercial partnerships that are either revenue positive or save expenses. I think we speak with a lot of firms. Like I said, for every deal that we do, there's probably at least 10 or 20 that we speak with that we still keep in touch with. So we're always open for business there.
Interesting, okay.
So at TradeStation, we've invested in some startups. It's been rather limited. I think the best way for those types of companies to engage with TradeStation, there's really two ways. So in the first case, like I was mentioning earlier, as a solution provider that helps us to integrate and be a piece of an overall solution that we bring to market. And then the second way is that TradeStation has a vast suite of different APIs. And you can be a solution provider that could build an app. It could live inside of our trading app store. It could be a standalone app that could connect to us via APIs, like with TradingView, for example. You can use their app and still trade your TradeStation account that way. And for us, I think that's really important because it really emphasizes what we think is important, where even though it's commission-free, it's not one size fits all, and it's the individuality and it's the very wide breadth of needs. And everyone's always looking for community, we spoke about, where they'll get, bounce ideas off of other people, sanity check their ideas, new ideas for them to trade, to hone their existing tactics and strategies.
I really could see how the, call it interoperability between different firms, different services, different data sets allows us to build a more interesting future, but also one that perhaps helps us serve in this lower cost environment. Anthony, do you have a kind of last word here?
So the title of this is Evolving Brokerages for the Commission-Free Consumer, right? And we talk about zero commission so much. Early October, all the big brokerage shops or online brokers announced that they were now going zero commission, a space that we've been in for a year and a half at the time. And since that time, since October, after the announcement, was the most accounts we've ever opened before. And that's because people actually said, wait a minute, like people can trade for free? Like we just didn't have the ability to get out to mass market. Like the big firms had Super Bowl commercials or whatever you want, right? So now everyone knows that trading is free, so then they go and do their online search and they see all these different options that are out there.
Right.
And what's going to happen is customers are going to go to the option that speaks to them most directly, right? And listen, I'm biased obviously, but I don't think my 22-year-old investor is going to open up a Schwab account. He's going to come to us. So
I guess we'll see.
Good time.
We'll see. Thanks. All right, we're good?